Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announcing the administration's policy toward Iran, economic isolation, and sanctions. The secretary outlining a so-called pressure campaign to weaken Iran's economy until it changes its behavior.
This sting of sanctions will be painful if the regime does not change its course from the unacceptable and unproductive path it has chosen to one that rejoins the League of Nations. These will indeed end up being the strongest sanctions in history when we are complete.
Pompeo promises the U.S. will also confront Iran beyond economic sanctions. He says he'll work with the Department of Defense to track down Iranian operatives around the world and, in his words, crush them. Iran is dismissing the threats tonight. The South Koreans reportedly singled out National Security Advisor John Bolton's recent Libya model comments for why Pyongyang is suddenly hedging on the summit. The president's also reportedly asking advisors if he should go ahead with the meeting. He'll hear from South Korean President Moon tomorrow. Joining me now for analysis is former Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and the Executive Vice President at the Family Research Council, Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin. Lieutenant General, great to see you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
First of all, a very firm speech from Secretary Pompeo today in terms of Iran policy, your reaction to his words and his actions outlined in there.
Well, first of all, he spoke to the mullahs in Iran in a language they understand, and that's the language of strength. It was one of the, I think it was one of the better diplomatic speeches I've heard, certainly in the last 30 years. That said, I think he got their attention on this, and I think that he made a very clear that the line has been drawn in the sand. No more. You're not going to continue doing what you've been doing. You're not going to continue capturing our boats off your coast. You're not going to continue calling for the death of Israel. You're not going to continue talking about how you want to destroy America, and I think that they got the message from that.
No surprise, the Iranian president was not thrilled with what he heard. Let's take a look at his comments from President Rouhani. Quote, countries are independent. We will continue our path with the support of our nation. Who are you to decide for Iran and the world? What do you make of that, sir?
Yeah, well, first of all, he says with the support of our nation. Now, that's something that requires a little pondering here because he's already had 3 uprisings inside Iran, one in 2009, the Green Revolution, one in 2015, and one in 2017. They rolled over into 2018. Only about half of the people in Iran are Persians. The other half are a mixture. It's an eclectic group there. And they don't necessarily support the mullahs there. And by the way, they are actually fairly pro-Western. So he's got a problem.
Is there hope, sir, of a new Iran nuclear deal, even though the Europeans are trying to hold on to the old one?
Well, I think that they made very clear today that they're not going to go back and try to fix what we have. I think it's start over. Let's start from scratch. Now, the key to that is not just Iran, but it's the Europeans. And are the Europeans going to go ahead and do what makes sense? Are they going to follow Donald Trump's lead? And are they going to realize that Trump was right, that Trump has taken a bold stand on not allowing Iran to get these nuclear weapons because they're a menace to the whole world? Or are they going to stick with the easy way, and that is to continue to allow their corporations to invest in Iran?
To North Korea, the odds of a summit seem to be perhaps slipping a bit. A South Korean lawmaker is already playing the blame game. Take a look at this. He's saying, quote, there are several landmines on the way to the summit between North Korea and the U.S. One of those landmines just exploded. John Bolton. Did Bolton misstep, sir?
To begin with, but Bolton has been consistent. He's been on this network many times saying exactly what he thought about how this ought to be handled. So President Trump was not surprised by what Bolton said there. I think this is one of those cases where Bolton took one for the team. They threw that out to see how it was going to resonate, and it didn't go the way they wanted. So I think that Trump separated himself from that, but I think Bolton just took one for the team on this.
How confident are you, briefly, sir, that this summit actually happens?
It's a toss-up right now. I've been skeptical from the very beginning about whether Kim, after all the years that his father invested in this and he's invested in it, was actually going to come to the table in a serious way. I think now he's getting cold feet about having to negotiate with Donald Trump, and quite frankly, I think it's 50-50 that it's going to come off at all on the 12th of June.
Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, thanks for your time,
thanks,
sir.
Mike.
Have a good evening.